Well, good afternoon, everybody. You're listening to Native Son. I'm your host, Alexander 9 Alpha Burnswood. If you'd like to support Native Son, you can donate at streamlabs.com/Burnswood. $2 will get your message played live on stream via TTS after the main segment. We have a good show for you today, and I had a whole other idea for this specific show. But something happened today. Not too long ago, that just really rubbed me the wrong way, and I just had to talk about it today. And I'm talking about the direction of this community. Specifically, community engagement right now is at an all-time low. National Guard is doing jack fucking shit. We have no game. And even if we did, who knows how popular it would be. And we won't know until we get to the point when it comes out. So that's exactly the current state of the community that Victoria County is in. I apologize if I sound too nasally. I am sick. But as most of you know, JDC has allowed myself and Nine Traveling to enact a semi-functional player government here in Victoria County. Some other people are also aware that we attempted to also do this with a side project of ours known as the State of Liberty, which, unfortunately, I just got burnt out and couldn't garner enough attention or ideas on how to get people to be engaged in just such an extensive and in-depth idea that a player government really is. But it's not the same here. In Victoria County, we already pretend to have a government. We already have lore surrounding government. We already have players who are interested in politics and community development. Myself and Nine Traveling, who are extremely invested and interested in a community that can do it. So why is it that when I suggest actually letting players elect representatives, was the immediate response from JDC simply, I don't want to do that? I mean, give me a break. I'm not crazy, and I hope those of you watching and or listening right now, or even afterwards, can agree with me. This idea is not bad, and, in fact, has more benefits than cons, if there even are any cons to begin with. So, let me just break it down. JDC is already asking us, and even more so me, to enact in-game laws, so to speak. Some people have probably already seen this in the form of an executive order that we create for them. I know a few of these were announced in National Guard, so if you were in there or are in there, then you've probably seen those announcements. Now, I didn't structure the idea exactly to him like this, but if I break it down, what I had in mind was roughly or approximately 12 senators. Players can elect them. Senators propose ideas, or JDC himself will propose an idea, as governor. A majority is required, and staff still ultimately control the actual game and community, that such in the form of Lieutenant Governor, who is already staff. It would be Enzo, which realistically would be the president of the Senate anyway, and would be the mediating party. And with that, bad actors can be removed or impeached. There would obviously be eligibility requirements, and the Senate could have defined powers rather than just unlimited authority. Now, I'm not proposing to just hand over the keys to the players. That would be ridiculous. But it comes down to if the amount of actual power is deliberately limited, what is there to be afraid of? Now, I'm not saying that players deserve control. I'm just saying, why are we not using politics as a gameplay mechanic when we're already doing that in one or more ways already? Just it. Do me a favor and imagine the potential. Candidates announcing campaigns, campaign posters, debates, endorsements, scandals, political ads, arguments within reason, obviously, election nights, recounts, legislative sessions, maybe even televised events, almost like Native Son is right now. Lobbying, impeachment, and those are just the things that I can name off the top of my head. That is the type of content we need in this community, rather than making it so staff have to constantly manufacture engagement in these shitty events. It would only make sense to create this system to support players manufacturing their own engagement, which is exactly what drives retention, in my opinion. And so, right now, the government technically already exists. It's being utilized, but what is it actually for? Well, right now it's only labels, really. As as far as I can judge. JDC has executive orders and labels himself as the governor, and the community is already heading towards somewhat in this direction. Like, he is Governor JDC, and you have Lieutenant Governor Enzo. These are the facts, but right now it's only a roleplay decoration, which is fine, as it stands. But if it's supposed to represent the community, which, in my opinion, it also should, then there should presumably be some mechanism by which the community participates in it. Otherwise, we are essentially just left with, well, here is your government, here are your officials, here is the political structure. Well, none of you actually get to choose anything. And that contradiction is probably more interesting than my own proposal. And not really in a good way. Now, somebody who I'm not going to name is somebody I also ran this idea by at the same time, said to me that, quote, people change once they have power, unquote. Which is a reasonable argument. I won't dispute that. However, they agree that this is a good idea, and that's actually people change once they have power is actually just an argument for designing safeguards and not an argument that's against the whole idea. And to that I say, like, of course there will be corruption of some sort. That is exactly why governments have checks and balances. Now, if we were to have 12 senators, and I'm just using that number as an example, we didn't, no number was actually said, but if we were to have 12 senators, one person has almost no meaningful power by themselves. That would require that one person to not only convince other senators, but then build a majority, and then twist it to get a majority vote in their favor. But if you really wanted to lean into realism anyway, the lieutenant governor, which would be Enzo, could just preside over the Senate and vote in accordance with whatever rules that are established. Or even be a tiebreaker, as would be, exactly what a real Senate does. And, well, it only gets better because the possibility of corruption is now an opportunity to become further content, which would engage the community. And I can hear it now. Well, what if players elect people who are idiots, trolls, or people who just want to cause problems? Well, what happens when the community elects somebody who's just a complete fucking idiot? Not every single person is going to be eligible to run. Duh. And by the way, the Senate doesn't have to start with legislative authority. We could make it advisory, let them debate proposals, vote on them, and then send those proposals to the staff. Staff still have the final say anyway. And if that works, maybe you expand their authority later. If it doesn't work, fuck it, scrap it. You were right, I'll eat humble pie. I'll eat those words. And here's something I think we're forgetting as well. The government doesn't have to work perfectly for this to be successful either. If the Senate were to become dysfunctional, that's content. If senators disagree, that's content. If an election gets incredibly close, that's content. If somebody gets impeached, that's content. The objective isn't to create the most efficient government imaginable. We're playing a fucking video game. We're playing Roblox. The objective is to create things for people to participate in. Like, come on, am I really just that fucking insane to think we're shooting ourselves in the foot? I mean, seriously, come on. I'm only convincing myself the more I talk about it. And I am wondering why this idea was rejected so quickly without even being discussed. No questions, nothing. There are absolutely, there are reasons this could go badly. But none of those were discussed. The answer was simply no, and that just bothers me. Personally, I would have ran a community poll, and I said that. But, I mean, whatever. I think, why does a community with declining engagement reject something specifically designed to increase engagement? I just don't get it. Now, if this isn't about preventing a Senate from having too much power, then what exactly is the objection? Now, I don't know what the objection is. Maybe there's a perfectly legitimate reason. Maybe there's something I'm not considering. If there is, I'd genuinely like to hear it. But if we're sitting here with declining engagement, waiting on a game that isn't even out yet, it will be in, 5 days? And we're turning down ideas specifically designed to give the community something to do, then what exactly are we doing? That's what I want to know. Now moving on to question period. I'll invite Logan to speak if he had any comments on it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I don't really have any questions, but I do agree that this would make the game way more active, have actual people playing and wanting to go towards something, maybe joining us in it. I do think 12 might be a little too much people to have in it though.
Well, I feel like the more people you have, the more balanced out it'll be. See, now, I know we're just one state, it's based on the state of Texas, but if we're judging based on the real United States Senate, that's 100 people. Now, I already discussed this with another friend of mine. I would find it extremely difficult if we were to do 100 people. I don't think we would have a problem getting 100 people to vote. I think the problem would begin with getting 100 people to actually run for Senate. Now we could cut that number in half to 50. Um, I mean, even I think that's still stretching it. I think 12 is a pretty good even number.
I
Now,
feel like if there's that much, I feel like there's gonna be a bunch like people that just apply and be a troll and everything, and they're probably gonna get accepted because of how many like places there are.
I mean, yeah, but even as I said, people are still going to have a majority. And as I also said, not everybody is going to be eligible to run. There's going to.
This idea it got completely rejected within like minutes.
Oh, yeah, like immediately. No conversation, nothing. And in the words of my great colleague, quote, all these brilliant ideas aren't sticking to this brick wall, unquote.
That really sucks because this would actually make the community way more fun and engaging.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I've been trying to say.
But
it's
yeah, I
just,
don't have any questions.
it's just tragic. We're just shooting ourselves in the foot. When Chappie's here, I'll invite him up to speak. It is question and discussion period. Right now, our topic of the day is a functional Senate within Victoria County. You weren't here for the whole tangent, but basically, to make a long story short, ran the idea by JDC that we should have some sort of functional Senate that would just completely boost player engagement. At least that's the idea. And I broke it down as 12 senators. Players could elect them. Senators could propose ideas, or JDC himself will propose the ideas. A majority would be required on those specific bills, as they would be. And staff would still ultimately control the final decision making. And Enzo, who is, technically our lieutenant governor, is already. Sorry, no. Technically, since he would be the quote unquote sitting lieutenant governor, would be the president of the Senate, would be able to mediate and be a tiebreaker in situations where there would be a tie or there needs to be mediation.
Yeah, I don't see how that could get rejected if no matter what it goes by like a moderator, the moderation team.
Exactly.
It'd be pretty safe.
And actually, I think that's another good point. The higher the number goes. Yeah, see? Even Chappie gets the whole idea. Well, I mean, this is more on a state level, but I mean, even on both levels, it's still the same, the whole same idea. Whether the term is president or governor, it would still be the same. Uh, but yeah, as I was saying, I think that was also a really good point. With the higher the number goes on elected senators, it allows the higher number of staff members that could also sit in the Senate and also be voting parties.
You don't really want the whole Senate to be mainly of staff.
You don't want the
Just like maybe 2 or 3.
exactly. You don't want the majority being staff because then it defeats the whole purpose. My my thinking behind it is that if I was a regular person and there there was an event to run for election, and I were to get voted in by, let's say, 50 people. Well, 50 of all those 50 people could come to me with ideas such as, well, we should implement this law, or this law shouldn't actually be a thing, or, we should change this law to include this. So, so much potential there. It's
Like instead of JC just like saying like no more argument ability, that could be like a whole thing. Like, do we want this? Do we not want this? And everything.
yeah, like it's hard to even think like why I don't, I won't get over that. Just why an idea like that would just get plainly rejected. It's unfortunate. It would truly be a waste of potential. And I think the worst part is, or actually not even the worst part. I think the best part is if this were to be implemented, nobody would have to do any fucking work at all, because me and Traveling have already put in the work to do something like this in Liberty. So all the documents, all the work has already put in to have a functioning Senate. It would just have to be turned over. So when I say there would have to be zero work, that's only a half truth. I mean, we would have to change over branding and whatnot, but nothing would have to be done. The work is already done. Let's just put it in. I mean, oh my god, I can't stress enough. There's nothing to lose. I'm actually gonna go insane if I keep thinking about it. There's nothing to lose. There would truly only be benefits. And even while I was going on the tangent, main segment of the show, I even said, it doesn't have to work perfectly for it to be successful. If I'll read it verbatim as I have it here in my footnotes. If the Senate becomes dysfunctional, that's content. If senators disagree, that's content. If an election gets incredibly close, that's content. If somebody gets impeached, that's content. And the objective isn't to create the most efficient government imaginable. The objective is to create things for people to participate in. And I think that's the most important thing. I will stand by those words. And the other thing that bothers me is, with JDC being so quick to shut it down, I'm a little I want to run a poll. I really do. I want to post an announcement. If this were it could be anything. If this were a feature, would you like to see this feature applicable? Or if we were to host elections, would you vote or run in the election or not vote? Personally, I think it would be very successful. I think people want to be engaged in this community. Right now nothing's fucking going on. And I think, man, it's just it's just the possibilities are fucking endless. I can't. Oh my god, it's it. Man, it makes it makes me so fucking angry. And Chappie even says, after V2 is actually stable, we could do that. It doesn't even need to be an in-game thing. This could be strictly out of game, and it would still have lots of engagement. I think. Because really, at the end of the day, what is the purpose of this? Well, it's to enact in-game lore and laws. You know, the whole reason I came up with this is because JDC reached out. What was it? 3 days ago. He said, "Can you make a bill for me?" In short, any government place or any government space will require signage to be displayed for designating private areas, else they will be accepted as public. With some exceptions such as the courthouse, prison, government property. Purpose is to bring, quote, transparency and prevent unnecessary excessive use of force, unquote. And it's like, and I know I've said it like 3 times now, but I'll read it verbatim as I said it. I said, actually, now that I think about it, let me run a serious idea by you. We have some form of a semi-functional player government. I think it would help engagement if we did something like what Liberty did, but for a Texas Senate or House of Reps to vote on laws and shit like this. And I broke it down as I already did. Elections could be a fun, interactive event. Elections can then have a specific say. Elected officials can then have a specific say of their own terms of lore, and I guess in some way game development, aligning with views of community members who would elect them. People could actually run for election, within a set of standards and maybe minimum requirements. That would be fun and a way for people to be creative, like with political ads and stuff. Essentially, it would just be one big player council, which is exactly the whole purpose anyway. Like, why... Like, if you're already running polls, just make it more fun. And even said, this has already proven to be successful in many more communities who are far more serious with it, and that we could make it fun. And he just immediately drops the, "Sorry, I don't want to do that." Like, fuck. Yeah, so that really pissed me off. No, I had to rant about it. If I wasn't afraid that JDC was going to silence me if I were to run a poll myself, and he would just fucking delete it, I might anyway. Because at least then it'll probably set up for a few hours, or at least I would hope that it would set up for a few hours, and we could see how much attention it would get. Yeah, but that would also require people to be in the game, which who knows. I wonder how that's gonna go in what is the event? 36 people in the events tab say they're interested. I wonder how many of those people are gonna. Yeah, I think I'll do that. What do I gotta lose? Other than my role. Oh, I'm looking at the notifications right now. JDC posted an announcement in Victoria County V2 Alpha release this week. See the details here. Okay. Version 2 Alpha. They didn't change the gun system at all, did they? I think that's the one big flaw right now in the game.
They made it different.
Did they? Or Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it is already different. Okay, Chappie says he's made improvements to it, so we'll see. I don't know. The V1 gun system was shit, but I mean, it was arcadey, and I think that was its charm.
Yeah, it was just fun.
Like, hit registration was all over the place, but I mean, at least it wasn't like I think the gunplay right now in V2 is, it's, I don't want to say exaggerated. I'm trying to find like a middle ground, but it is, more on the realistic, exaggerated side. Uh, at least in comparison to V1. But I just don't. I don't know how to feel about it. Because I feel like shots just aren't landing where they're supposed to. I think was my biggest complaint. I mean that's big two core gameplay features is the shooting and the driving, and I think both are in a pretty bad state right now.
Yeah, the driving's like all over the place for them.
Yeah. But I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, time will time will only tell. Yeah, that makes me angry. I hate it. I hate that the idea was just shut down with no discussion at all. It's just like, if we were to discuss it more, like, okay, like, I want to hear I want to hear your complaints and your thoughts. I just don't want you to say fucking no and that's the end of it.
There's probably something we should bring up once V2 is out and stable, like in Chappie said.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, like, what would be the point of waiting for V2 if it's not a? It doesn't need in-game support. Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, at bare minimum, the only basic support would be that laws would have to be implemented. And that would just be a change of a few scripts, whether it's the arrest or the citations tab. If we were to enact trespassing as a law.
Yeah, and maybe just like make a news app on the phone or something that just says it.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck, that's another fucking idea. It's just have a news tab in the phone. What's new? Oh, well, the Texas State Senate has enacted the new trespassing bill. It is now illegal to trespass on airfields, courthouses, in restricted areas. I don't know. Either that or we could all just go fuck ourselves, you know, in one ear and out the other with these suggestions. I said it to him too. I was like, I said, Supreme Leader JDC wants all the control.
Yeah, like he won't even let us start up National Guard right now.
Really? I thought that's what he wanted.
I said, "Are we able to start?" He said, "Not right now." Just so you know, I said, "Not right now."
What the fuck?
I just gave him a check mark and receipt.
Well, I mean, personally, NG would be hard to get running.
I mean, just like in the server, not actually in game right now. Just like get people some role, get like MVP leadership right now and stuff.
I mean, it's pretty bare bones as it is in the main server. It would be really difficult for people to be active in the National Guard server.
No, because like there's people that actually play like other servers, like
Oh,
challenge games. They're like, when is it coming back? When can we start doing stuff and everything?
I know. Then you'll see a dynamic of where, maybe, possibly, the National Guard server will be more active than the main server. That's a bad look. But yeah, I guess that's all I really got to say on that. That's one way to kill 40 minutes. And I guess with that, that is all that we will do on this episode of Native Son. If you'd like to support Native Son, you can donate at streamlabs.com/burnswood. $2 and above will get your message read live on stream via TTS at the end of every segment. All donations do go to a good cause and support the show. Feed a broke guy. Maybe some new equipment. I've already raised $50 so far. Thank you to Matthew G. Shin Splints. Big contributor to the show. What was it? He 30, 40, 55, 6, 7, 8, 9. $59 in total. Let's see if anybody can top that number. I doubt it, because everybody's broke in this day and age. Well, until next time, this has been Native Son.